Is it happening?
I think it is happening, and I think we are live. So if you're there, please drop a comment in. This is Sarah Gagnon with Power2Believe, and I have one of my best friends, Angie, back with Maguire, on with me. Nurse coach extraordinaire, board certified nurse coach, Angie Maguire, RN and BSN. Um, I think we're live. I wanted to start and let you know why I felt it was so important to bring on my girlfriend. Not only is she brilliant and gorgeous, beautiful on the outside and inside, she is truly, and you've always been, Angie, you're truly there for the team, like for individuals. You're such a good friend and listen and help and be resourceful. Um, and I'll let you talk more about what you do. But what was really interesting to me is, I've had this health crisis this summer. I suffered, if you didn't know, I suffered a infection from a routine hip replacement and was out for the entire summer, and it was a really bad infection. There's 47% mortality rate, so I'm on high antibiotics until it is for minimum a year and being regulated by infectious disease. So Angie and I have had a lot of questions, and one of the times that you came to visit me, and thank you so much for coming to visit. We were talking about women in midlife, right? And everything that goes along with it, which leads right into what your newfound career and amazing resource is. And so, can you please introduce yourself and tell everybody why you decided to become a nurse coach and what that means? Because I know you're not just a coach for nurses.
Right. Good. Glad that you know that from my guest post. But yes, thank you, Sarah, so much for having me on today. And so yes, my name is Angie Maguire. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse almost 30 years and worked in many environments. And the latest, probably last 15 years, I've worked in maternal child health and community health. And a few years ago, I decided to do a coaching program and became a nurse coach, and then sat for the board. So I am a board certified nurse coach. And that it's a newer nursing specialty. A lot of people don't know, even nurses are like, what's a nurse coach? But this role was created under the American Holistic Nurses Association. So nurse coaches, I mean, you not only learn how to provide care in a different way, but you also learn how to care for yourself too during this program. And it's life-changing for many people, many nurses that I know that go through the program. And it's just a different way of looking at healthcare, bringing in more holistic approaches. And so nurse coaches are working in hospital settings. If they work in a setting, they're bringing wellness programs into their work. I've decided to start my own business. So I have my own practice, and it's Coach Angie, and I'm in Oak Park. And so I do individualized coaching. So one-on-one coaching with women in midlife, also women in postpartum, and nurses. Nurses, we usually start around occupational health, and then that just, it's interconnected to everything, other aspect of wellness. So I love working with all three groups of people. And other two things that under sort of my umbrella of my business is I am starting a menopause education series in October with a friend and physical therapist as well. Her name is Susan Klinger. And it's going to be a 3-part series, and it's going to be in person, maximum of 8 people at a time, 3 1.5-hour sessions. So, and then the third thing is I've started a nurse club. So it's a club for nurses, free membership, but it's organizing events around health and wellness just to provide a little extra love and self-care to nurses. And so that's in its infancy, but excited for that too. I've had several events and we have another one in September. So those are sort of my 3 things that I'm doing right now, but I know we're here today to talk about women in midlife. So yeah, so excited to
Okay,
get
I have
started.
a question.
Yeah.
So your nurse club is just for nurses?
Yes.
Okay. And you do, for example, like if I am 52, so I am a woman in midlife, and somewhere on the spectrum between perimenopause and menopause, if I was having issues with symptoms for menopause and my primary care doctor was not addressing them like or giving me a lot of resources, would you tell me like, and I contacted you as a nurse coach, is that something that's appropriate?
So I do not prescribe. I do not, but I am. My whole goal working with women in midlife is to review their health and wellness and get them prepared to talk to their providers, advocate for themselves. I mean, we advocate for our kids. If you have kids, we advocate for our parents, but often don't advocate for ourselves in the same way as women and also in midlife. And we sort of, we're taking care of our parents, if if we're lucky enough to still have them alive. If we have children, we're still taking care of our children. So we're in that sort of sandwich generation. So we have a lot going on. So one of my roles as a coach with women in midlife is advocacy, is getting people prepared to have those discussions with their providers. And I mean, actually, the first thing I talk about is if people have a medical home, if they have a provider they're comfortable having these discussions with. And if you don't, let's try to find you a new provider. I mean, I'm not into taking people away from their long-term the person they're in love with and they've been with forever, but it's very important to feel comfortable and trust your provider, and then also be ready to advocate for yourself.
And what's interesting to me is, especially because, I'm pretty strong. I know what I want. I go after it. But when you're a patient, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yes.
You are vulnerable. I mean, I was so lucky with my hip infection. I had a team of people that are friends that we had team calls about, am I progressing? Do I need help to ask for a second opinion? Which, by the way, yes, I did. And I don't stumble for words. So it was a very different position, being the patient,
Right.
to advocate for myself. And it was so comforting to be able to call somebody in really to give me the clarity, to give me the courage to be able to ask the hard questions. And I don't know why they were hard, because it's my body, it's my hip, it's my health, and I was not progressing. I was not getting on top of the infection. And so do you have being armed with facts allows you to take the emotion out of it and say, well, this is what I know and this is what I'm feeling, and be able to have a discussion with your provider, or perhaps find a different provider. And so what you would do is be able to arm me with facts and resources in order to be able to go and seek those out and have intelligent, productive conversations with my provider or anybody else. Kind of, right?
That's exactly right. I think, just let's take your situation, and you were, acutely ill, right? And you had a team. And when we take, it's not really comparable in perimenopause and menopause, but it is a confusing time for women. There's 35 plus symptoms that can be associated with menopause. If you're lucky, there's, some people don't have any symptoms. Some people have mild to moderate, and then there's a severe, and it's kind of split up into thirds. very similar to thinking about when we were in adolescence and we got our first period and how we felt. And we had a friend that had terrible cramps where maybe I didn't. Or I had a friend that, just had very different symptoms.
Cried at the
Yes. And
sugar,
this leads
salt,
me to
sugar,
also
salt, sugar,
say,
salt.
this also leads me to say how important it is that everyone is individual in this transition. And that's one of the most important part of the conversations that you're having with your provider, that it's individualized care. And me and you aren't the same. I'm not sisters are probably more similar. It's one reason to know your genetics. Talk to your mom if she is, still alive and in your life. Talk to your aunts, talk to your cousins that are the same age as you. What are they going through? What have they experienced? What's worked for them? What hasn't worked for them? So really genetics is very important too. So lifestyle is important. But let's go back to also talking about because of how confusing this is, some people are this menopause. What is menopause, right? So there's stages of this transition. And so it's, they say premenopause is like the reproductive years. Perimenopause is the time when, our sex hormones start to decrease. And it can be, typically starts 47-ish, but it can, can last 7 to 10 years. So there is there's a big range, but the average time of menopause, that day that you have been 12 months without a period, it's literally a day menopause. You come to a halt. You haven't had a period in 12 months. The average age is 51 and a half, 51 to 52 years old. Okay. So, that's pretty much the time frame that even, some people miss it because it's just, you're not tracking it or for other reasons, right? And then you go into postmenopause. So you're always in menopause. When people talk about, oh, I think I'm done with menopause. Well, you're always in menopause until the day you die, basically. So just to be very careful, very clear about sort of that transition. Perimenopause is often called that menopause transition. So it's that transition to menopause, to that day that it's been 12 months without a period, when you are no longer reproductive, your estrogen is at its lowest or low, it's at the lowest point. So just to be clear on that whole transition. So it's a confusing time for people with those symptoms. And what's great about right now is there's a lot of attention. There's this sort of this whole not revolution happening, but people are working really hard. The menopause out there is working hard to get information out there, to advocate for us and advocate for women in midlife and in menopause. So it's an exciting time, although I'm 52 and I wish I would have known what I know now at 42, because in my 40s, now I understand, because really perimenopause, it really starts with sort of that when your period changes, when you first kind of maybe go, gosh, my period used to be 28 days, 30 days for the last 20 years. And then all of a sudden it's now 35 days or 21 days and you're bleeding more. And it's just those changes. So those are the symptoms that sort of changing, your hormones are changing. So it's a long process. And I think the more we talk about it and women can support one another, again, being on a team, being on, talking to your friends and talking about it more, because there's a lot happening in our bodies.
And it's real and it's happening to everybody. Like, we have to talk about the harder conversations and show up and be authentic and get as many resources and support as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And our external environments aren't changing. We're going to always have stuff going on, right? Life's not going to stop because we're not feeling great, right? Like, it just keeps going. So if we can have a plan in place about how we're taking care of ourselves, and also those younger, women that are, in their early 40s, going head on with it, knowing it's going to happen, embrace it. We're aging and we're lucky to age. We're lucky we're here. I'm lucky to be alive. I'm 52 and, I want to have the next many years. I have many years in front of me, and hopefully, and I want to feel the best that I can. So, and as you already said, knowledge is power. So the more we know, and the more support we have, and our, support of our medical providers and our friends and all that, and have our in our community, that's such a big thing to have too. So,
which is so interesting, which leads me into, when I decided 9 years ago to change my life and dove into self-development, and I dove into the experts, and for 9 years have been researching and educating myself and changing the negative internal dialogue, and realizing that it's possible is exactly why I became a coach. Because if I can do that, if I can change my negative internal dialogue, then anybody can. And the reason I know I want to help somebody else is just like being on a team, just like when I used to ask you for tips with swimming and stroke technique, is we learn together. And I don't know, to free someone else from mental anguish or physical anguish, and being able to help somebody find what they need, and find some grace, and find a new way of thinking, or a new way of living, or, which is the same thing with learning how to live with menopause, is exciting and so rewarding, which I believe is exactly why you got into coaching.
yeah, I mean, as a nurse coach, we are working on people's agenda. They're coming to us with where they are in their health and wellness. Whereas when you're in a hospital, it's like so acute, and you're kind of instructing people what to do. You're giving them education. And what nurses do best is we assess, we communicate, we implement, we intervene. And all of that can be done too, and not in acute setting as well, and preparing people, to face things head on and change their mindset.
And you nurture.
Added mindfulness. Yeah. Yeah. So
nurture, which is key, especially being a woman, and even though I feel like I'm strong, I'm vulnerable when I'm in a medical situation, and to be able to call on somebody that is going to take care of me is wonderful. So I am so excited. Tell me a little bit about your events that you have with the Nurse Coach Club, or the Nurse Club.
Yeah, the Nurse Club. Well, we have an event planned in September, actually, at Sparkle Aesthetics, which is in Oak Park, and we are. They are. I'm grateful to them.
Is that on Madison?
Yeah, Madison.
I just drove past it the other day.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, just the interior, the exterior, the people, the staff, they're wonderful. And so they have offered to clear out a space in the front, and my friend Christine from Whole Athletics in Oak Park is coming to do a mat Pilates class, and their staff is going to do a skin assessment. So it's a night of self-care, relaxation, and also building a community of nurses with the real intention of nurses caring for one another. It's in learning from each other and sharing stories. There's one thing about, if you're a nurse, it's, you tell a story. The only person that's going to get that story at work is probably another nurse, right? That they've done the same thing. I mean, so there's something to be said. And that's one thing I took away from my nurse coach training, was really feeling like that's what I wanted to do. I really wanted to put the time into my colleagues, my fellow nurses, and anywhere I can. And so to bring health and wellness activities to them. And it's, we've had a couple events at Yoga 6 in Oak Park. The owner there has opened up that, a couple spaces. We did that. My friend Kate Butterly taught a class on a rooftop. And so, yeah, it's been very exciting. It's in its infancy, but it's real. I think I have some big ideas for it. I have some grants to write, I think.
Ideas. So if you are a nurse out there, get in contact with Angie. How can people get in contact with you?
So I just launched my website this week, which I'm super excited. So it's Coach Angie RN, and there is, that website has
And
the whatever.
I'll put her, Angie's website in the comments after we're done. And I think
Yeah.
we're going to jump over to Instagram after we're done because I'm not sure Instagram is cooperating.
Okay.
But I know that
Okay.
there's some people on. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we can answer.
Okay. I wanted to, other than the couple tips about finding a medical home and having a provider that you trust, there I do, women, if there's some great resources out there for women in perimenopause and menopause, and people that are really struggling and suffering, and easy to access virtually. But the Menopause Society is a website, used to be called the North American Menopause Society. It is now the Menopause Society. You can access that online, and it has a practitioners area and one for women. And there's a list of practitioners on there that are menopause certified practitioners all over the country. So if you are seeking out someone like that and you want to see someone that is certified, you don't have to, because if you already have a provider that's listening and working with you and how you're feeling, and you have a plan with them, great. But if you do need to look further, that's a great site to use. Other educational resources, I just wanted to mention, there's a nonprofit called Let's Talk Menopause that has so much great education. Really, they talk a lot about symptoms. They have great expert speakers, OBGYNs, nurse practitioners, midwives that are all like, they're talking and sharing their information and the most up-to-date scientific research too about what's going on. So, and also another a great podcast that I love is called Not Your Mother's Menopause. It is Dr. Fiona Lovely out of Canada, and she's something too. So that's just, there's so much out there, and it can be overwhelming to know, but I think the Menopause Society is a great place to start.
Is that free?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Maybe you can put it in the comments also.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if you have, I have another question. How about hormone replacement? Do you help people with resources for hormone replacement? I know you said you don't prescribe, but
Right.
I know that there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of solutions, and it's hard to navigate whether you should have hormone replacement, what the pros are, what the cons are, what types there are. Is that something that you help women with?
I certainly have it laid out in my menopause education series. We talk about all the different hormones that are out there, and really to empower and make people aware of what they could, what they need to talk to their provider about. And it's actually it's changed from HRT to MHT, which is menopause replacement therapy. So it's menopause replacement therapy. So it's different.
MRP,
Because
not
yeah,
HRP. Got it.
yeah. So so just I certainly talk about it and consult, but I have every book out there so I have a lot of great resources that I use, and the Menopause Society, I get information from them, but I just, again, educate and make people aware and get them ready to have the discussions with their providers.
Well, I just think that that's wonderful and such a gift. So people can reach you through your website. They can DM you on Facebook and Instagram, right? What are your handles on both?
My Instagram is Coach Angie RN,
Okay.
and I'm at the RN Club. That's for the Nurse Club. That's
Okay.
another handle on Instagram. And then I'm just at Angie Beck with Maguire. It's my personal site that I have for also on Facebook. So you can contact me there.
All right. Perfecto. I think we might roll over to Instagram if you are still able to.
Okay. I
Um,
am.
everybody that's out there, have an awesome, awesome day. Anybody that watches later, you can contact Angie just by those things, either on social media, her website. What's your email?
Angie at coachangiern.com.
There you go. We'll put
Lots,
them in
lots
the comments. But have a good day. Know that you are sane and normal. If you're a woman in
You are not
midlife,
alone.
you are not alone ever. And if you have negative internal dialogue, you're not alone either. And so if you have issues with that, you reach out to me. I just made a new express coaching package and would love to discuss it with you. And we're getting ready for my retreat in November. And that is for women also, allowing you to remove yourself from distraction and excuses, reset in paradise, restore to your authentic self. And you're going to reset with mindset, movement, and wellness, and return with overall renewed energy. So, 2 swimmers here ready to help you live your best life. Why? Because we freaking deserve it. So have an amazing day. Power to believe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you for
Sarah.
everything.